One of the most essential things for a business to be successful is maintaining clients. It's not just about getting a client, it's about keeping them. Today's guest is going to tell you how you can create a wow experience for your clients, ensuring that they will never forget you. He also shares why giving, instead of receiving, is paramount to landing the bigger clients. Keep it right here. You do not want to miss today's episode.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performance Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy.
Today's guest is Steve Sims, former doorman turned entrepreneur. Steve is the founder and CEO of Bluefish and A Taste of Blue, as well as the author of the book, Bluefishin', The Art of Making Things Happen. Steve specializes in making people's wildest dreams come true, such as singing on stage with Journey, getting serenaded by Andre Boceli in Italy, and taking a submarine trip to the Titanic. If you have a crazy dream and the means to achieve it, Steve is the guy you give a call.
Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. This is going to be a very cool interview. You know, it's funny, as I was going through your bio and stuff, I see that you end up in this magazine all the time. I love reading this magazine. It's one of my top magazines, Rob Report. It was like, we like cool shit together. So I just want to kick this thing off to you. How did you come up with this concept?
Oh, I didn't. You're paying me too much of a compliment to start with. You settle up there, boy. No, I was a doorman of a nightclub, and I found that there was an element missing. People wanted someone reliable and resourceful to get them into parties, clubs, bars. Basically, the crowd that were moving up in the financial world now could afford stuff but didn't know how to get into it. And the events themselves breed that exclusivity, saying, oh, no, you have to be invited. Simple fact is, you don't have to be invited. You need to be positioned. And I was just a guy that managed to get those that wanted into where they should.
Now, tell us where you actually started that, because I think that's part of the cool story, because this is a really, if you've never been to this part of the world, this is a cool place to be.
Oh, well, you know, I was a bricklayer from East London. I talked my way into getting a job in Hong Kong. That was fun in itself. I got transferred to be a stockbroker. I landed on the Saturday. I got partied with them on the Saturday and Sunday, and I got fired on the Monday. Actually, I got fired on the Tuesday. Let me be fair. I lasted an entire day. But then they realized I didn't know what I was doing, started working on the door, because I think God built me for that. And then it just kind of grew from there. I just started turning people away, not because, you know, I didn't like them, but because it wasn't right for them to go in that night. It was either too early or it wasn't the right crowd. And I would quite simply, just for the purpose of thinking, what if this was me coming to the door? I'd literally just turn around and say, you know, Tim, Bob, Billy, not tonight, mate. It's just not your night. And they'd look at me, first of all, thinking I was, you know, trying to kick them out. And I'd be like, you're going to be disappointed. You won't come back again. Walk down the road. Tell Thor Steve says that you should go in there and you'll be good. And it just started growing like that. I was the guy that would just give them the straight up answers. And then I started throwing the parties. And quite simply, if you want people to spend a lot of money, don't invite poor people. So I only invited people with money. And it grew from there. And the concept of just being the man that can came before the concierge industry.
I love it. I love the fact that you said, look, today's not the night. You know, look, you can go in, but you're not going to be happy. You know, so often in business, we're always trying to get customers to always buy. It's like sometimes you just have to turn around and say, look, I'm not a good fit for you. Tonight's not a good time. This is not the right time for you and I to be doing business together.
Oh, I think people should do that more often. I think people are just looking at the dollars and they look at something. Yeah, I don't want to be arrogant here, but I could find up a client now and sell him something for $500,000 that would be a complete waste of time. He would badmouth me. I'd get a bad reputation. He would have got what he asked for, but not what he wanted or not what he felt he could get. And quite simply, my reputation's worth more than that. So I'd rather make I'd rather make $10 every day of my life than $100 in one day.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you learn in that process? Now, the area in Hong Kong, is it Wang Chung, Wai Chi? What's that area?
Wan Chai. This was in the 90s before it went back to Chinese rule, and Wan Chai was the area of Hong Kong. And Hong Kong's a very small island, very small. And Wan Chai was where all the clubs were and all the bars were. And let's be blunt, in the late 80s and 90s is where all the wrong kind of clubs for the right kind of people were. And so you've got this 230-pound of ugly British guy stood on the door telling you whether or not the night was right for you. But Wan Chai was the area that you ended up in when you were out to have fun at the night.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I used to do a lot of business in Hong Kong, and during the SARS scare, if someone they thought they had SARS, they would just lock down the entire hotel. So this poor chap ended up in a hotel room for 10 days being quarantined with a friend from that area. and of course he was an expat from London, and they just broke quarantine that night, and he's out with all his lads back down in the district, and they are just hooting and hollering. He's like, oh my goodness. And of course they all had breakfast together, and this poor girl who had been working just a few nights before was stuck in this hotel room for 10 days.
Oh dear. I hope you paid the going rate.
That's
and
right.
I hope you picked well, and it wasn't a blind pick.
All right. So now, how do you turn it into a business? Where was that moment where you said, "Hey, I got something here"?
I didn't. You're paying me too many compliments. I've always been a guy that's been very, to coin a phrase, I'm impossible to misunderstand. I am who I am. I'll resonate with some. I'll aggravate others. But this is what you get. Don't pay me the compliment of thinking I'm any deeper. I will do what I say I'm going to do. So I'm very old school. And I was actually bear in mind, as I said at the beginning, I was a bricklayer. So I wanted the polar opposite of being a bricklayer. So I did all of these events with quite simply the idea that I would get to network with affluent people. Because affluent people were people who I wanted to work for because they had money. I don't want to go and try and get a job from a poor guy. So I did these events and these parties to bring in affluent people, and I was basically bringing in my own career.com. I thought if I knew 100 rich people, one of them's going to go, boy, you've got the ICANN over the IQ. I need you to work for me, and I'd have a job. Do you know, here's the funny thing. In all of my years, 20-odd years later with Bluefish, this was the only time in my life where I never actually asked for anything. You say to me, hey, I want to get married in the Vatican. I want to go down to the Titanic. I'll say, great, you need to send me this money. You need to do this. I will ask you to do things. This was the only point in my life that for some reason I never actually asked. I thought it was a field of dreams. I thought if I got them all together, the job offers would come. It wasn't until I'd been doing this for like 4 years and quite simply 2 or 3 days a week, putting a suit on, going to these banks and these brokerage houses, trying to act all nice, taking out my earrings, then coming home, putting the black T-shirt on and throwing a kick-ass party twice a month. Then my wife turned around and went, look, you've got 3/4 of your month an effort in this. You throw a couple of events a month, look after a couple of rich boys. This is our bank account. This is the one that's paying. Maybe there's a market here. And of course, then you do what all entrepreneurs do when you've got income and clients and you actually think you got a business, you fuck it up. You actually, as entrepreneurs, I think we're built to just basically destroy things when they're working right. If it's working smoothly, well, let's pull it apart, see how we can destroy it.
Yeah.
Under the guise of let's make it better, but we tend to do that. So I tried to make a fancy website. I tried to change the whole tone of what Bluefish stood for, which quite simply was just a raw, can-do attitude. I tried to, dress it up in all these frills and posh language. And quite simply, I lost a lot of clients. I lost a lot of money before, very luckily, before it died, I went back to the raw that it is now. The man, the people that can are here. You don't pay me to date me. You pay me to do. So that was what the attitude came to. But it really was just the call of the crowd that built this business and the quality of my incredible wife that noticed that we had a business.
That's fantastic. Even looking at your logo, if you give me 100 logos, throw them in front of me, and I see this, I know this is your logo just from your personality. I mean, it's you.
I got to tell you, okay, 101, how to screw up your business. Think you know what you're doing. When this whole newfangled thing called websites came up in the 2000s, and it wasn't that long ago, was it?
No.
I went out to a friend of mine, and I actually remember sitting down with him going, right, okay, I want this logo, and I want it to look like this, and I want it to look like this, and we actually tried changing the name, and I need to tell you where Bluefish came from.
Yeah.
We used to give passwords to get into my parties, and it would be stupid stuff, because I thought rich people that said stupid stuff, they were big enough, confident enough, and humble enough to play the game. So when you got some idiot walk up to the door and go, I'm here for the party, we'd say, no party here. And it's all kicking off behind you. But if they turned around and they went, one fish, two fish, red fish, bluefish, we'd let them in. It was a bit of a joke. And for that reason, we got a really good crowd of people circulating. When we tried to launch the business, we changed the name because a lot of people actually referred to us by one of our passwords, by Bluefish. And of course, Bluefish, it meant nothing. So we tried creating a company that meant, the all-seeing controller, the judge, the jury, the court. We screwed up everything until eventually people just went, is that Bluefish? And we went, yeah, that's right. So when we asked this guy to design Bluefish, I stepped in with all my creative knowledge, which was zero, designed what Bluefish should look like. This guy, thankfully, gave me what I asked for, and I looked at it, and I went, yeah. And he went, but Steve, this is who you are. And he unveiled the Bluefish you see now, with the little wink in its eye, the tooth, and he said, that's the kind of fish you want on your side. And I was like, all right. And that taught me a very good lesson. You don't know what you don't know. So basically, get people to do what they do best and let them run with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because this is you, but that logo is probably one of the last logos somebody would design for a luxury brand. I mean, let's face it, right? I mean, it's a snarling bluefish looking at you. But it's you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You've got to do you. I see so many people in the marketplace trying to imitate like a Gary Vee or a Tony Robbins or, you name it. There's only one of them, and there's only one of you. Do you.
Yeah, no, and here's the daft thing. It takes no energy to be you.
Right.
It takes a lot of, like Gary Vee says a lot of good stuff. Tony Robbins says a lot of good stuff. But how much effort would it make for me to kind of try to put a New York accent on and a hoodie and walk around and try to be Gary Vee? Why?
Yeah.
But a lot of people do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's authentic when you do you. It's only authentic when you do that. I want to touch on something that you said here, and I think this is really interesting because I see so many people mess this up. And this goes actually to Gary Vee's stuff as well. Not that it's just his stuff, but you went into that environment and you try to figure out how can I give. And so often I see people walk into those rooms with influencers and start to want things, immediately start to go, what can I get from this environment? What can I get from this crowd? And highly successful people are used to getting that give me, and they've got to guard up against that. So kudos on how you went and you just figured out, okay, how can I get into this group but not figure out what to ask for or get from them right off?
Yeah, it wasn't intelligence. It was just gut reaction. I've tried, every time I screwed up, it's where I tried to use both brain cells at once and ignore my gut feeling. So now I just let the brain cells kind of let me talk and breathe and drink, and I let my gut reaction choose everything.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of science coming out now talking about the cellular structure of our stomachs and our gut are very similar. Seriously, very similar to the brain cells in our brain. And there's a lot of science saying that, what we feel like a gut feeling is actually another sense of intelligence within our body.
Well, this one steers me, thankfully.
Yeah, me too. I don't always see it, but I'm getting better at it. Let's talk about some of the experiences, because I have some very wealthy clients that don't have a lot of time. They have the money, and they want to be wowed. A matter of fact, it's pretty interesting. Right on my wall in my office, I came up with this quote a couple years ago, and I was sitting actually, you see my shoes in the picture, looking over New York City, going to the west, the sun's setting, I'm out in Long Island, and it says, the only worthwhile endeavors are those that start with wow. What are some of the wow experiences you've created for your customers?
So we had a client a while ago wanted to go to an exclusive restaurant in Florence. This is where it gets down to understanding what they want and not what they're saying. If anyone's ever had dinner in Florence, they realize that there's no such thing as an exclusive restaurant. You walk in for a table of 2, you get stuck on a table of 22, and by the end of the night, these are all your family. That's Tuscan life for you. That's why people go there. But this guy wanted an exclusive private restaurant. So for that reason, we gave it to him. We actually took over the Academia Museum, kicked out everyone at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the Academia, if you don't know, houses Michelangelo's David, the most iconic statue in the world. And we set up a table of 6 at the feet of Michelangelo's David just for these clients. So they ate food in a completely emptied out museum at the feet of the most iconic statue. Now, if that wasn't cool enough, half hour into that meal, I had a string quartet playing just to give some ambience. And then I had Andre Boceli came in and serenaded them during dinner.
Wow.
That's the kind of stuff I do. I've had clients want to get married in the Vatican by the Pope, go down to see the Titanic, ride pillion on a MotoGP bike, sing on stage with their favorite rock star, live during concert, get a guitar lesson by ZZ Top, get a drum lesson by Guns N' Roses, drive a Formula One car with a Formula One driver. So I'm the guy you call when you woke up one night, still maybe got a few beers in you, and you had this amazing dream and a checkbook to match. I'm the guy you call.
That is amazing. You know, the first time I heard Boceli sing was 9/11. And to this day, if he sings, a song comes on, I just burst out crying. His music is so ingrained and has such a connection to me. That's amazing.
Well, I've got to tell you this quick story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
For a few seconds. So he's sitting on the plinth that surrounds David in the museum. And the clients haven't turned up. The string quartet are outside. The caterers are outside. There's only me, him, and his wife in the Academia staring at Michelangelo's David. And all of a sudden, he starts going, whoa. He starts going through these chords and these notes. So he's doing this. I'm sat next to him. I've got chills where I am and who I'm with and what I've just pulled off. Then literally, I sit there and I start going, and he stops. Gentleman's blind, as everyone knows, but he looks in my direction, leans over to his wife, Veronica, says something to her in Italian. She looks over to me and she says, "Scusi, Steve, what are you doing?" And I said to her, "When will I ever get the chance to sing a duet with Andre Boceli ever again?" And she laughed. She leant back. She spoke to him in Italian. He laughs, puts his hand on my leg, and just goes, "Stop." But I can say I sang a duet with Andrea.
I love it. I love it. So, you know, that's one benefit, obviously, of this profession is you get to meet some amazing people and I'm sure have some amazing experiences alongside of your customers.
Oh, well, I've got to be careful what I say here, but put it this way. I was in the Academia from 5 o'clock in the afternoon with nobody other than me and Andre Boceli and some other fantastic people in the entire museum. And we were there till about midnight. My clients came in and were there for just over an hour.
Yeah.
So I got a good 4 to 5 hours with Andre Boceli sitting down, just hanging out, and with the string quartet in that location. I remember sitting on the floor of this museum with a whiskey in my hand, just staring up at the most amazing Renaissance art, thinking, when would I be ever... Oh, here's a funny thing. As you walk into the Academia, there's all these plaques on the door. And so when they open up these 2 big doors to let us come in with all the caterers and the tables and all that kind of stuff and the chandeliers, I actually said to these people, "Oh, I see all these plaques." What do they mean? Thinking that they were like, something really important. He said they're all in different languages. He said each plaque says the absolute same thing. I said, what's that? They went, no food and drink inside the museum. And there are we walking in with all of this food and drink and chandeliers, and I'm sitting on the floor with a whiskey in my hand, just staring up at artwork. So I do get to indulge and experience, and to be honest with you, maybe a lot more than the actual clients do.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to actually enjoy it. What have you sent a thank you to the gentleman or the woman that fired you from your first job in Hong Kong?
Oh, they turned up at the club. It was funny because when they fired me on the Monday, it was on the Tuesday. It was obvious on the Monday that somehow I had talked my way into this job, yet had no qualifications. So on the Monday, these two guys are staring at me in their office, trying to work out which one of them is going to fire me. And it finally came out that I blagged my way in, that it was so bloody obvious. We all just started laughing. They used to come along to the bars afterwards and the clubs that I was working at, and I would get them good tables. So I had tried something. It had failed, but I could never understand. I had some people going, oh, you must be pissed off. Why? I gave something a shot that I clearly should not have been in. But look where it's got for me. It's the old kind of shoot for the moon and you grab some stars. I shot for Hong Kong. I lost my job, but look where I was. I was now in Hong Kong. Yes, I was working on the door of some dodgy clubs, but it was the start of a new story, a new chapter. No, those guys were really good. I got to hang around with them. One of them, actually, I'm still Facebook friends with. I don't know where the other guy's gone. The whole market changed. But, yeah, I'm still in contact with those boys.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin. Click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.
Be on the lookout for part 2 of our interview with Steve, where he tells us the key to finding out what your clients really want, as well as the 3 requirements to becoming a member of Bluefish. I'll see you guys on another edition of Peak Performers Podcast.